And in the 40th Jubilee, in the 6th week, in its 7th year, Abram took a wife, and her name was Sarai, daughter of his father, and she became a wife for him. And Haran his brother took a wife in the 3rd year of the 3rd week, and she bore a son for him in the 7th year of that week. And he called him Lot, and Nahor his brother took a wife. In the 60th year of the life of Abram, in the 4th week, in its 4th year, Abram rose in the night and burned the house of the idols, and he burned everything in the house, and there was no man who knew. And they rose up in the night, and they wanted to save their gods from the midst of the fire. And Haran rushed in to save them, and the fire flared up over him, and he was burned in the fire, and died in Ur of the Chaldees before Terah his father, and they buried him in Ur of the Chaldees. And Terah went out of Ur of the Chaldees, and he said to his sons, so that they might come into the land of Lebanon, into the land of Canaan. And he dwelt in Haran. And Abram dwelt with Terah his father, and Haran 2 weeks of years. And in the 6th week, in its 5th year, Abram sat up during the night on the 1st of the 7th month, so that he might observe the stars from evening until daybreak, so that he might see what the nature of the year would be with respect to rain. And he was sitting alone and making observations. And a word came into his heart, saying, all of the signs of the stars and the signs of the sun and the moon are all in the hand of the Lord. Why am I seeking? If he desires, he will make it rain morning and evening. And if he desires, he will not send it down. And everything is in his hand. And he prayed on that night, saying, my God, the Most High, you are alone our God to me, and you created everything. And everything which was the work of your hands. And you and your kingdom I have chosen. Save me from the hands of evil spirits, which rule over the thought of the heart of man. And do not let them lead me astray from following you, O my God, but establish me and my seed forever. And let us not go astray henceforth and forever. And he said, shall I return unto Ur of the Chaldees, who seek my face, so that I should return to them? Or should I dwell here in this place? Make the straight path prosper before you in the hand of your servant, that he might serve. And do not let me walk in the error of my heart, O my God. And he finished talking and praying, and behold, the word of the Lord was sent to him by my hand, saying, come forth from your land, and from your kin, and from your father's house, into the land which I shall show you. And I shall establish you as a great and numerous people. And I shall bless you, and I shall make your name great, and you will be blessed in the land. And all of the nations of the earth will bless themselves by you. And whoever blesses you I shall bless, and whoever curses you I shall curse. And I shall be God for you and your son, and for the son of your son, and for all of your seed. Do not fear henceforth, and for all the generations of the earth. I am your God. And the Lord God said to me, open his mouth and his ears, so that he might hear and speak with his mouth in the language which is revealed, because it ceased from the mouth and all of the sons of men from the day of the fall. And I opened his mouth and his ears and his lips, and I began to speak with him in Hebrew, in the tongue of creation. And he took his father's books, and they are written in Hebrew, and he copied them, and he began studying them thereafter. And I caused him to know everything which he was unable to understand, and he studied them in the 6 months of reign. And it came to pass in the 7th year of the 6th week that he spoke with his father, and let him know that he was going from Haran to walk in the land of Canaan, so that he might see it and return to him. And Terah his father said to him, go in peace. May God eternal make straight your path, and the Lord be with you, and protect you from all evil, and grant favor upon you, and mercy and grace before those who see you. May none of the sons of men rule over you to do evil to you. Go in peace. And when you have seen a land pleasant to your eyes to dwell in, come and take me to you. And take Lot the son of Haran your brother with you, as a son for your Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother Haran's son, into the land of Canaan. And he came to Ashur, and he walked in Shechem, and he dwelt by a tall oak. And he saw, and behold, the land was very pleasant from the entrance of Hamath to the tall oak. And the Lord said to him, to you and to your seed I will give this land. And he built there an altar, and he offered up upon it a burnt offering to the Lord, who appeared to him. And he removed from there into the mountain, with Bethel toward the west, and Ai toward the east. And he pitched his tent there. And he saw, and behold, the land was wide and very good, and everything was growing upon it. vines and figs and pomegranate trees, oaks and ilexes and terebinths and olive trees and cedars and cypresses and date trees, and every tree of the field. And water was upon the mountains. And he blessed the Lord, who brought him out of Ur of the Chaldees, and brought him into this land. And it came to pass in the 1st year, in the 7th week, on the 1st of the month, that he built an altar on that mountain, and he called on the name of the Lord. You are my God, the eternal God. And he offered up a burnt offering to the Lord upon the altar, so that he might be with him, and not forsake him all the days of his life. And he arose from there, and he went toward the south, and he reached Hebron. And Hebron was built then, and he dwelt there 2 years. And he went to the land of the south as far as Bealoth. And there was a famine in the land. And Abram went into Egypt in the 3rd year of that week, and he stayed in Egypt 5 years before his wife was taken from him. And Tanis of Egypt was built then, 7 years after Hebron. And it came to pass, when Pharaoh took Sarai, the wife of Abram, that the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues on account of Sarai, the wife of Abram. And Abram was honored with many possessions, sheep and oxen, and asses and horses, and camels, and male and female servants, and silver and much gold. And Lot, his brother's son, also had possessions. And Pharaoh returned Sarai, the wife of Abram, and he sent him out from the land of Egypt. And he went into the place where he had pitched his tent first, to the place of the altar. Ai was east, and Bethel west. And he blessed the Lord his God, who brought him back in peace. And it came to pass that in the 41st Jubilee, in the 3rd year of that 1st week, that he returned to this place. And he offered upon it a burnt offering, and he called upon the name of the Lord, and he said, You, O God, most high, are my God, forever and ever. And in the 4th year of that week, Lot separated from him. And Lot dwelt in Sodom, and the men of Sodom were great sinners. And his heart was sad because his brother's son had separated from him, because he had no sons. It was in that year, when Lot was taken captive, that the Lord spoke to Abram after Lot had separated from him. In the 4th year of that week, Lift up your eyes from the place where you are dwelling toward the north and south and west and east, because all of the land which you see I will give to you and your seed forever. And I will make your seed like the sands of the sea. Even if a man were able to number the sands of the earth, he would not be able to number your seed. Arise and walk in the land in its length and its breadth, and the sea at all, because I will give it to your seed. And Abram went to Hebron and dwelt there. And in that year Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Salasar, and Tergal, king of the nations, came and killed the king of Gomorrah. But the king of Sodom fled, and many fell with wounds in the valley of Siddim by the sea of salt. And they took captive Sodom and Adam and Zeboim. And they took Lot, the son of Abram's brother, captive, and all his possessions. And he went to Dan. And one who escaped came and told Abram that his brother's son had been taken captive. And he armed the servants of his house. Upon Abram and his seed 1/10 of the first fruits to the Lord. And the Lord ordained it as an ordinance forever, that they should give it to the priests, to those who minister before him, so that they might possess it forever. And there is no limit of the days for this law, because he ordained it for eternal generations, so that they might give 1/10 of everything to the Lord, grain and wine, and oil, and oxen and sheep. And he gave it to these priests to eat and drink with rejoicing before him. And the king of Sodom approached him and bowed down before him, and he said, Our Lord, Abram, give us the people whom you saved, but let the booty belong to you. And Abraham said to him, I lift up my hand to the God Most High, that I will not take anything of yours, even a thread or shoelace, lest you say that I have made Abram rich, but only what the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men who went with me, Aner, and Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take their portion. And after these things, in the 4th year of this week, on the 1st of the 3rd month, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a dream, saying, Don't fear, Abram, I am your defender, and your reward will be very great. And he said, O Lord, what will you give me? I am going on without children, and the son of Masek, the son of my handmaid, is Eliezer of Damascus. He will be my heir. But you have not given seed to me. And he said to him, This one will not be your heir, but one whom will come from your loins will be your heir. And he took him outside, and he said to him, Look into heaven, and count the stars, if you were able to count them. And he looked at the heaven, and saw the stars, and he said to him, Thus shall your seed be. And he believed the Lord, and it was counted for him as righteousness. And he said to him, I am the Lord who brought you up from Ur of the Chaldees, so that I might give you the land of the Canaanites to possess forever, so that I might be God for you, and for the seed after you. And he said, O Lord, how shall I know that I shall inherit? And he said, Take for me a young animal of 3 years, and a goat of 3 years, and a sheep of 3 years, and a turtle dove, and a pigeon. And he took all of these in the middle of the month. And he was dwelling by the oak of Mamre, which is near Hebron. And he built an altar there, and he slaughtered all of these, and he poured out their blood upon the altar. And he divided them in the middle, and placed them facing one another. But the birds he did not cut up. And the bird came down from upon the pieces, and Abram kept turning them away, and he did not let the birds touch them. And it came to pass that when the sun set, that a terror fell upon Abram, and behold, a great dark horror fell upon him. And it was said to Abram, Surely know that your seed will be strangers in an alien land, and they will serve them, and they will make them suffer 400 years. But I will judge the people whom they will serve, and afterward they will come forth from there with many possessions. And you will go to your fathers in peace, and be buried in a good old age. And in the 4th generation they will return here, because the sins of the Amorites have not yet been completed. And he woke up from his sleep, and stood up. And the sun had set, and there was a flame. And behold, an oven was smoking, and flames of fire passed between the pieces. And on that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, To your seed I will give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, and the Euphrates river, the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Perizzites, and the Rephaim, and the Phachorites, and the Hivites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. And that day passed, and Abram offered up the pieces of the birds, and their fruit offering, and their libation. And the fire consumed them. And on that day we made a covenant with Abram, just as we had made a covenant in that month with Noah. And Abram renewed the feast and the ordinance for himself forever. And Abram rejoiced, and he told all of these things to Sarai his wife. And he believed that he would have seed, but she did not give birth. And Sarai advised Abram her husband, and she said to him, Go into Hagar, my Egyptian maid. It may be that I will build seed for you from her. And Abram heard his wife Sarai's word, and he said, Do it. And Sarai took Hagar, her Egyptian maid, and he gave her to Abram her husband, so that she might be a wife. And he went into her, and she conceived and bore a son, and he called him Ishmael, in the 5th year of that week. And that year was the 86th year in the life of. In the 5th year, the 4th week of that Jubilee, in the 3rd month, in the middle of the month, Abram made a feast of the first fruits of the harvest of the grain. And he offered up a new sacrifice upon the altar, the first fruits of food for the Lord. A bull and a goat and a sheep were upon the altar as burnt offering to the Lord. And their fruit offering and their libation he offered up upon the altar with frankincense. And the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am God Shaddai. Be pleasing to me and be perfect, and I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will make you increase very much. And Abram fell on his face, and the Lord spoke to him, saying, Behold, my ordinance was with you, and you will be called the father of many nations. And your name therefore will not be called Abram, but your name will henceforth and forever be Abraham, because I have established you as the father of many nations. And I shall make you very great, and I shall make you into nations, and kings will come from you, and I shall establish my covenant between me and you, and your seed after you, and their generations, for an eternal ordinance, so that I might be God for you, and your seed after you. And I shall give to you and your seed after you the land where you sojourn, the land of Canaan, which you will possess forever, and I shall be God for them. And the Lord said to Abraham, And you also keep my covenant, you and your seed after you, and you will circumcise all your males, and you shall circumcise your foreskins, and it will be a sign of the eternal ordinance between me and you.